Did the world's most scrutinized global pop icon just commit an unscripted act of defiance before millions of viewers in a single fleeting second? And if so, who was the silent recipient of a gesture that has now ignited one of the most debated moments in fandom history? On February 26, 2026, during a Weverse live broadcast that began as casually and warmly as any other, armies across the globe found themselves stunned by what appeared to be a split-second moment that changed the entire tone of the evening. Jungkook, widely recognized not only as the golden maknae of BTS, but also as one of the most carefully observed public figures of his generation, briefly raised his middle finger to the side of the frame. The gesture lasted barely a heartbeat, yet within minutes, clips were circulating across fan communities, slowed down, zoomed in, and analyzed frame by frame. What did it mean? Who was he responding to? Was it anger? Sarcasm? A private joke? Or was it something far more human, an impulsive flicker of emotion in an artist who has spent more than a decade living under relentless scrutiny? The live stream had begun in typical Jungkook fashion. He appeared relaxed, slightly tired but smiling, his voice soft and familiar as he greeted ARMY. The chat flooded with purple hearts and messages of support. Recent months had been intense for the members of BTS, with packed schedules, rehearsals, overseas appearances, and studio sessions. Fans were especially sensitive to Jungkook's well-being after repeated discussions about exhaustion during the 2026 cycle of activities. His decision to go live that evening was seen as a reassurance, a sign that he was healthy enough to spend time with fans. For the first 20 minutes, nothing seemed unusual. He laughed at comments, adjusted his hair, sang a few lines of a song, and responded to lighthearted questions. But then, at approximately the midpoint of the stream, Jungkook's gaze shifted slightly to the right side of his camera. His expression tightened, barely perceptible, but noticeable to fans who have studied his micro-expressions for years. And then it happened. His hand lifted casually, two fingers folded, one remained extended. It was not directed at the camera, it was angled slightly off-screen. There was no verbal explanation, no dramatic shift in tone. He resumed speaking almost immediately, as though nothing had occurred. But ARMY noticed. Within minutes, social media platforms were ablaze. Clips slowed to 0.25 speed circulated across timelines. Fans debated whether it was a misunderstanding, an inside joke, or a serious statement. ARMY shocked, read trending posts. Who was he pointing that at? Asked countless comments. Some viewers insisted it was accidental, a stretch of fingers that momentarily looked suggestive. Others argued the gesture was deliberate and carried emotional weight. The absence of immediate clarification only deepened the intrigue. Those familiar with Jungkook's personality know he's playful, sometimes mischievous, occasionally sarcastic in subtle ways, yet he's also deeply aware of his global influence. Over the years, he's been careful, measured, and respectful. That is why this brief action felt seismic. It seemed out of character, or perhaps more precisely, it seemed too raw to be calculated. Speculation began to branch in multiple directions. Was he responding to a staff member off camera? Perhaps someone teasing him? Could it have been a reaction to a technical glitch? Or was it directed at an intrusive comment scrolling through the live chat? Some fans noted that seconds before the gesture, his eyes darted downward briefly, possibly reading something on screen. The theories multiplied. One camp suggested that Jungkook may have been reacting to persistent rumors circulating about his personal life. In the months leading up to February 26th, online speculation about various aspects of his career and relationships had intensified. Was this a spontaneous moment of frustration, a wordless enough aimed at gossip culture? Others proposed a lighter interpretation. Jungkook has occasionally displayed playful defiance in safe, humorous contexts. Perhaps someone in the room had jokingly challenged him. The angle of his hand, some fans argued, suggested familiarity rather than hostility. Yet another layer of analysis centered on body language. His facial expression did not convey rage. There was no clenched jaw, no raised voice. Instead, there was a subtle flicker, almost amusement mixed with exasperation. Could it have been a private joke between him and another member off-screen? Notably, no other members of BTS were visibly present in the frame during the livestream. However, fans know that during shared schedules, members often occupy adjacent rooms or sit behind cameras. The possibility that he was gesturing toward a fellow member sparked yet another wave of curiosity. Was it playful teasing? A silent exchange invisible to the audience? The absence of immediate damage control also stood out. In previous instances where artists inadvertently made ambiguous gestures, agencies often issued clarifications within hours, but as the night progressed, no official statement emerged. Hybe Corporation remained silent. Jungkook himself did not address the moment before ending the live. Silence, in the age of hyperconnectivity, is fertile ground for speculation. As the clip crossed linguistic and geographic boundaries, reactions varied. Some international fans expressed concern that such a gesture, even if unintentional, could be misinterpreted in cultures where it carries strong offense. Others defended him passionately, arguing that idols are human beings allowed to experience irritation. A significant portion of ARMY urged calm, emphasizing context over assumption. Interestingly, several longtime fans pointed out a pattern in Jungkook's recent demeanor. Over the past year, he's appeared more candid during lives, more willing to speak openly about fatigue, pressure, and the psychological weight of constant observation. Could this brief gesture symbolize a broader shift, a transition from a meticulously polished idol to a more unfiltered adult artist? To understand the magnitude of the reaction, one must consider Jungkook's image architecture. Since debuting at a young age, he's been framed as diligent, disciplined, and respectful. He's often described academically as embodying aspirational youthfulness within the K-pop industry's narrative framework. A raised middle finger, however fleeting, clashes dramatically with that constructed persona. The shock is not solely about the gesture, it's about perceived deviation from expectation. But perhaps the real question is this: why did a single second carry so much emotional weight? The answer may lie in parasocial intimacy. Weverse lives create an illusion of direct, unmediated connection. Fans feel as though they're sitting across from him in a private conversation. When something ambiguous happens in that space, it feels personal. It invites interpretation. It demands meaning. On February 27th, as daylight reached different time zones, fan editors produced side-by-side analyses comparing Jungkook's expression before and after the moment. Some argued he seemed embarrassed afterwards. Others insisted he looked unfazed. A minority claimed the gesture might have been misinterpreted entirely, perhaps a casual finger stretch captured at an unfortunate angle.
Still, the central mystery persisted. Who was he? If the gesture was directed at a person physically present, that individual remains unnamed. If it was directed at a comment, the specific message has not been identified publicly. If it was directed at broader circumstances, rumors, pressure, fatigue, then its target may be abstract rather than personal. By the third day, the discourse shifted slightly. Instead of focusing solely on shock, fans began discussing boundaries. Should idols be expected to maintain perfect composure at all times? Is it fair to freeze frame every motion? Jungkook's humanity became a parallel narrative. Some fans expressed empathy, suggesting that if he did momentarily express frustration, it reflected the intense environment he navigates daily. Notably, Jungkook did not return immediately to clarify. That absence of commentary itself became a statement. In an era where apologies are often rapid and rehearsed, choosing silence can indicate either confidence that no harm was intended or a strategic decision to avoid amplifying the controversy. Media outlets eventually picked up the story, framing it with dramatic headlines, yet none could answer the defining question. Without direct confirmation, every interpretation remains speculative. There is also the possibility, often overlooked, that the gesture was directed inward, not outward, a playful, self-directed expression, a momentary ugh at himself for a technical error or missed lyric. In slowed footage, one can detect a hint of self-aware humor in his eyes, but video analysis, no matter how meticulous, cannot penetrate intent. Psychologically, micro moments like this reveal the fragility of public persona. When an artist spends years presenting composure, the smallest crack feels monumental. Jungkook's global visibility magnifies even trivial movements into international discourse. Yet, amid the noise, one truth stands firm. The live stream did not collapse into chaos. He continued speaking, he smiled, he thanked ARMY, he ended the broadcast with warmth. The world did not end. Perhaps the shock says more about collective expectations than about Jungkook himself. Perhaps the fascination reveals how deeply audiences invest meaning into gestures detached from context. Or perhaps, in that single second, Jungkook expressed a quiet rebellion, a reminder that behind the polished image stands a 20-something human navigating extraordinary pressure. As of now, no official clarification has been released. The clip continues to circulate, but the intensity of debate has softened. Fans remain divided between playful dismissal and lingering curiosity. So, who was he? A staff member teasing him? A friend behind the camera? An intrusive comment? The abstract weight of fame? Or no one at all? Until Jungkook chooses to speak, the answer resides in ambiguity, and perhaps that ambiguity is the true story, a fleeting human moment amplified by digital magnification, a reminder that even the most globally adored figures are not immune to impulse. On February 26, 2026, a single finger lifted to the side. For 1 second, the internet held its breath. Whether it was frustration, humor, or coincidence, it became a mirror reflecting the intensity of modern fandom culture. The shock may fade, the clip may eventually sink into the endless archive of viral moments, but the question lingers in collective memory, dramatic and unresolved. In a world where every gesture is recorded, what happens when an idol forgets, just for a second, that the camera never blinks? If the camera never blinks, does the artist eventually forget how to close his eyes? As the hours turned into days after the February 26, 2026 Weverse Live, the conversation surrounding Jungkook did not simply dissipate, it evolved. What began as raw shock slowly transformed into layered analysis, emotional reflection, and a broader debate about celebrity, surveillance, and the fragile boundary between performance and authenticity. To understand why the moment felt seismic, one must examine the symbolic architecture of Jungkook's public identity. Since debuting with BTS at an age when most teenagers are still discovering themselves, Jungkook has grown up under industrial lighting and global scrutiny. His adolescence unfolded in high-definition cameras. His mistakes, triumphs, growth, and vulnerability have been archived, translated, subtitled, and replayed millions of times. In that context, a raised middle finger is not merely a gesture, it becomes a rupture. Yet ruptures can be revelatory. Some fans began revisiting older live streams, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, searching for precedent. Had Jungkook ever displayed similar bluntness? There were playful moments, teasing expressions, mock frustration, exaggerated sighs, but nothing quite like this. The uniqueness of the gesture amplified its perceived gravity, and still the central mystery refused to resolve itself. One widely circulated theory suggested that someone off-camera may have interrupted him mid-sentence. In slowed-down audio, a faint shuffle can be heard seconds before the gesture. Was it a staff member signaling time constraints? Was it a friendly interruption? Or was it merely ambient noise magnified by hyper-attentive ears? Another faction of ARMY proposed something more introspective. What if the gesture was not outward at all? What if it was directed to a technical glitch? Throughout the live, there had been minor lag and fluctuating audio levels. Could it have been a joking reaction to the unpredictability of live stream technology? Interestingly, body language experts, both professional analysts and self-proclaimed enthusiasts, entered the conversation. They dissected the micro-tension in Jungkook's shoulders, the subtle lift of his brow, and the half-second pause before he resumed speaking. Some interpreted composure, others detected suppressed irritation, but none could claim definitive authority over intent. Silence from High B Corporation persisted. In the entertainment industry, silence can be strategic. It can signal that an incident is considered too minor to warrant amplification, or it can reflect internal deliberation about response. Days later, Jungkook appeared again in a separate context, briefly in shared content related to group activities. His demeanor was warm, relaxed, unchanged. If there was tension, it did not surface publicly. That, too, fueled speculation. Was the absence of visible consequence proof that the gesture had been harmless? Meanwhile, cultural commentators began framing the event within a broader sociological lens. They noted that gestures are semiotic constructs, symbols whose meaning depends on context. In Western cultures, the raised middle finger is widely understood as an explicit sign of defiance or insult. In other settings, especially among close friends, it can function ironically, even affectionately. The ambiguity of direction, angled slightly away from the camera, suggested that the intended recipient, if any, was not the audience, and yet the audience felt implicated simply by witnessing it. That emotional ripple reveals the depth of parasocial bonds. Fans invest not only admiration, but also expectation. When an idol deviates, even momentarily, the deviation can feel like a personal shift in relational dynamics. But what if the real surprise is not the gesture, but the reaction?
Over the past decade, Jungkook has navigated extreme pressures, record-breaking tours, global award stages, intense media cycles. In 2026 alone, BTS's schedule had been described by insiders as relentless. Rehearsals extended late into the night, travel across continents compressed recovery time. Even in moments of rest, the digital presence of fandom remains constant. Exhaustion does not always manifest in dramatic breakdowns. Sometimes it surfaces in micro-expressions, fleeting gestures that reveal accumulated tension. Was February 26 a crack in composure or simply a misunderstood second? Several fans expressed something unexpected: relief. Relief that Jungkook might allow himself to show irritation. Relief that perfection was not absolute. In a culture that often demands flawlessness from idols, imperfection can humanize. Yet others worried about backlash. Would critics weaponize the clip? Would detractors frame it as disrespect? The global visibility of BTS ensures that even minor controversies can escalate quickly. However, the anticipated explosion did not fully materialize. Outside fandom circles, mainstream discourse remained relatively restrained. The absence of widespread condemnation suggests that context matters deeply. The gesture was not accompanied by hostile speech. It was not directed at a specific individual publicly. It existed in ambiguity. Still, the question remains: who was he? One subtle clue lies in the direction of his gaze. Observant viewers noted that he did not look angry at the camera. His eyes shifted slightly to the right and upward, an angle consistent with someone standing or sitting nearby. If another member of BTS had been present behind the scenes, a playful exchange would not be unprecedented. The members have a documented history of teasing each other affectionately. Could it have been directed toward a bandmate who made a joke off-screen, a silent, exaggerated response between friends? Without confirmation, the speculation remains suspended. There's also a deeper philosophical angle. Public figures exist in a state of perpetual performance. Even casual live streams are framed by awareness of viewership. But no human being can sustain absolute self-monitoring indefinitely. Micro-slippages occur. The camera captures them. The internet immortalizes them. Perhaps the moment on February 26th was less about defiance and more about fatigue, the fatigue of being watched.
In academic discourse, this phenomenon aligns with the concept of digital panopticism, where constant visibility shapes behavior. Jungkook has lived within that panopticon since adolescence. A fleeting gesture might represent nothing more than an unconscious release. As the week progressed, fan narratives softened. Memes emerged, not mocking but playful. Some edited the clip with humorous captions, reframing the moment as a relatable frustration with everyday annoyances. Humor became a coping mechanism for uncertainty. Importantly, Jungkook did not exhibit defensive behavior in subsequent appearances. There were no visible signs of reprimand, no abrupt tonal shifts. His continuity of warmth suggested that internally, the incident may not have been perceived as catastrophic, and that may be the most revealing clue of all. If the gesture had carried severe intent or consequence, would there not have been immediate damage control? The absence of formal apology or clarification may indicate that those closest to him understood the context clearly and deemed it harmless. Still, ambiguity fascinates. Human cognition seeks narrative closure. When an event lacks explicit explanation, we fill the void with theory. In this case, the theories reflect broader anxieties about idol autonomy, about emotional suppression, about the cost of global fame. Some fans have reframed the question entirely. Instead of asking, "Who was he pointing at?" they ask, "Why do we need to know?" Perhaps the obsession with identifying a target reveals a discomfort with unresolved meaning. A gesture without a defined recipient challenges the expectation that every action must correspond to a clear storyline. As February draws to a close, the viral intensity has begun to fade. New content, new schedules, and new conversations gradually displace the shock. But for those who witnessed it live, the memory lingers, not necessarily as scandal, but as a moment of startling humanity. In a career meticulously curated, authenticity can surface in unpredictable ways. A raised finger, angled to the side, lasting less than a second, became a catalyst for discourse on celebrity, surveillance, and emotional labor. So, who was he? A friend? A staff member? A technical glitch? A rumor? Himself? Or perhaps no one at all? Until Jungkook chooses to clarify, the answer remains suspended between pixels and projection. And maybe that is fitting, because in the end, the true revelation of February 26, 2026 may not be about offense or defiance. It may be about the impossible tension of being both symbol and human, about the fleeting second when the line between persona and person flickers. The camera never blinked, but perhaps for one brief heartbeat, Jungkook did. What happens when a single unscripted second becomes a cultural case study in global celebrity behavior? In the days following the February 26th Weverse Live, the conversation surrounding Jungkook did not simply revolve around a gesture, it evolved into a referendum on expectation. The intensity of the reaction exposed something deeper than shock. It exposed the psychological contract between idol and audience. For over a decade, Jungkook has existed not only as an artist, but as an emblem: discipline, talent, humility, resilience. As the youngest member of BTS, he grew into adulthood under relentless global attention. Fans witnessed his voice deepen, his artistry mature, and his confidence solidify. But alongside that growth came a nearly mythic narrative, the golden maknae who rarely falters. So when his hand lifted, fingers folded, and one extended to the side of the frame, it was not merely a physical movement, it was a fracture in myth. Yet fractures invite interpretation. Digital ethnographers, those who study online communities, have long noted that fandoms function like living organisms. They process shock, conflict, and ambiguity through phases: alarm, investigation, division, stabilization. Jungkook's February 26th moment followed this pattern almost precisely.